I'm going to call a special meeting of the Board of Aldermen to order on Tuesday, April 9th, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber. The prayer will be offered by City Clerk Dan Healy, and Alderman Patricia Klee will lead us in the pledge to the flag.
Almighty God, we have the high honor and the serious duty to manage the affairs of our beloved city. Fill us, O God, with a spirit of unity and understanding which enables us to face our multiple problems with a serene mind, with justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will always be for the betterment and greater happiness of all our fellow citizens. So help us God. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's start the meeting by taking the roll call attendance.
Alderman O'Brien.
Present.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Here.
Alderman Moran.
Here.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Here.
Alderman Govea.
Here.
Alderman Lopez. Alderman Sullivan.
Here.
Alderman Clemmons.
Here.
Alderman Senate.
Here.
Alderman Jettie.
Here.
Alderman Tebow.
Here.
Alderman Klee.
Here.
Alderman Dowd.
Present.
Alderwoman Kelly. Alderman Wilshire.
Here.
13 present, 2 absent.
Thank you. Also joining us this evening is Corporation Counsel Steve Bolton. Tonight we have a presentation, Nashua Strong Towns, and I will recognize Alderman Klee.
Thank you, Madam President, for allowing Strong Towns and my fellow colleagues here. They're a group that has been working throughout the city with other organizations and so on to try to come up with ideas. They're an independent group, but they have some very good ideas as far as things that we can do to make downtown and various other places within the downtown area. I know I heard Alderman Dowd say, I think we need to let them know that we're not a town, we are a city. I think it's a general form of town and so on. But at this time, I think I'd like to introduce Mr. Glacier, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Darian? Glasser. Thank you very much. I apologize. You're the one who's going to give the presentation. Or Mr. Fiore? Okay.
Well, the three of us are going to go together.
And just to let you know, there's David Fieri, Darian Glasser, and Jonathan Vale. 2 or 3 of them are my constituents. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Glasser is from Ward 9, Alderman Sullivan's ward. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you all for having us here today. We really appreciate it and appreciate the hard work that all of you do to keep Nashua running and a great place to be. Our purpose today, and I apologize, my voice is a little raspy, so I can only talk so loud. Our purpose today is just to introduce ourselves to you, let you know what Strong Towns is about, and to encourage you to support some of the policies which we have been putting forth, and which I think are in line with the Nashua Master Plan and other initiatives of the city. So without further ado, our agenda first is what is Strong Towns? That'll be me. Then I'm going to hand it over to Darian, who will talk about some of our specific policy objectives in the near term. And then Jonathan Vale will talk about how we intersect and collaborate with other community groups operating in Nashua. So first, what is Strong Towns? We are a local conversation within the broader Strong Towns national movement. This is a movement that was started by a man named Chuck Marin, who was actually, I think I have this wrong, I think he was actually a city engineer. But he asked himself a question, we're doing all of these projects, are they fiscally responsible? And the answer was, well, he'd always been, yes, of course they're fiscally responsible. But as he studied the issue, he realized that they weren't. And here's why. Here's what typically happens. A developer will come in and build a subdivision. They'll build the houses, the roads, the pipes, put in the wires, all of the infrastructure. They'll then sell the houses, make a profit, and give all that infrastructure to the city. And this was the growth pattern, from just after World War II until relatively recently. And the cities all said, this is great. We grew in population. We grew in land. We grew in tax revenue. And growth is great, so everyone's happy. Problem, the tax base for that subdivision doesn't cover the maintenance, and that maintenance will come due. Now, nobody noticed, because then someone else built another subdivision, right? And so the money from that second subdivision is paying for the maintenance on the first, right? So he started to realize that this is why so many cities, not Nashua, thank God, but it's why so many cities are going bankrupt. And he also realized that your downtown is the key to a prosperous city, because the downtown has the highest value per acre. I meant to turn on my timer so I don't go over time. How am I doing on time? Okay, all right. Downtown investments have the highest ROI. And, Strong Towns doesn't say, well, you can't have suburbs, you can't have that area zoned single-family housing, but you have to pay for it, right? Towns, cities must fundamentally be fiscally solvent. And the way you do that is with a prosperous downtown. Now, Nashua Strong Town was started by Darian. He's our local conversation leader. The first one started in 2021. We meet about once a month since it got started. And Darian, Jonathan, and I have become the sort of the conversation leaders for our group. In a typical meeting, we'll have 10 to 15 people of the 67 or so who have joined our mailing list. The mission of Strong Towns is to replace this post-war development pattern, which is subdivisions, is all zone single family, with a development pattern that is financially strong and resilient, creating an environment that is safe, livable, and inviting. And which should do something that should become as great news to you guys. Strong Town sees local government as the key to this, because this is really the place where we as people can act together. And what you'll see when Jonathan makes his presentation, we cut across the political spectrum. One of the things that Chuck says at the end of his book that just really opened my eyes to where I'm at politically, he says, where am I on the political spectrum? Well, it depends on what level of government you talk about. At home, I'm a communist. Okay, right? I mean, we don't have a transactional relationship with our kids, right? Whereas at the city level, I'm more socialist. This is where we work together. This is where we pool our resources, and this is where, as a citizen, I can have the most impact. When you get to the federal government, I'm a libertarian. I want it as small as possible, because that's where, decisions, one size fits all. So leading into the Strong Towns principles, one of our key principles is that lowest government is not the lowest level of government, but the highest level of collaboration for strong citizens working to build a prosperous place. And for that to work, there has to be financial solvency. And that leads us to the Strong Towns approach. It relies on incremental investments, little bets, rather than large transformative projects. I just want to give you an example. One of the problems that is identified in the Strong Towns book, a book which, by the way, I recommend everybody read, it's a great book, is that modern development is built to purpose. It's built for the end use in mind. So think of a big box store. It's built to be a big box store. What happens if that big box store goes out of business, right? That building can't really be used for anything else. It's built for just that purpose. Now think of our downtown. What if, God forbid, Martha's Exchange should go out of business, right? There's any number of businesses that could fill in that spot and continue to be prosperous, right? So things which allow people to change the use of the property, to incrementally add value, to make their own choices, is a part of the Strong Towns approach. And with respect to the road infrastructure, one of the observations is that the emphasis over the last 20 years has been about mobility, and it should be more about accessibility. Roads should be, our town should, our city, I'm correcting myself now, our city should be a pleasant place for people regardless of what mode of transportation they want to use. Right? It should be a place that's good to walk, a place that's good to bike, and a place, as well as a place that's good to drive. So what is it that makes a downtown prosperous? What sorts of policies can help drive prosperity? And for that segment, I'm going to turn it over to Darian Glazer.
Evening, folks. I'm Darian Glasser. And no worries at all, it's a common mistake. And I'm here to talk about policies that help make a downtown prosperous and strong. I come prepared with the script because otherwise I would yammer on for God knows how long. Let's go on and see if I got the right button. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our Nashua Strong Towns proposed complete streets policy. So Nashua Strong, let me go to the next slide. There we go. Nashua Strong Towns Complete Streets policy focuses primarily on changing streetscapes to provide pedestrian-friendly environments with traffic calming, bike lanes, and human-scale design. For our policy, we've opted to take inspiration from Howard County, Maryland, named as having one of the complete and strongest complete streets policies in America by Smart Growth America. We understand changing streetscapes is very expensive. We want to ensure with this policy that changes are iterative and low cost to the taxpayer of Nashua. We propose in the policy that changes happen during routine road maintenance to ensure the cost of reshaping a street is just a normal line item on construction. This iterative rollout ensures that if changes to the design need to be made over time, it can be done so as the needs of the city of Nashua grow. Note I said city. All right, let's talk about benefits of a complete streets policy. Before we get into some of the specifics, I'd like to raise some points from a study from the Victoria Transit Policy Institute. If you look at the full study, it's page 39. This was done in North Carolina. This is a quote from the study. The community can benefit from investments that improve walking, cycling, and public transit. Such projects, when combined with new land use patterns, and then interjected from myself, like Nashua Recode, which is going on right now, I'll get to that in a little bit, support local economies by leveraging public investments and often include a revival in retail activity, private investment, social capital, and tourism. Investments typically increase retail sales by an average of 30% and land use value from 70 to 300%. Additionally, also on page 39, I'd like to highlight what the VTPI says about congestion benefits. Overall, conventional evaluation tends to overlook many of the ways walking, cycling, and public transit travel can help solve traditional traffic engineering problems, such as traffic and parking congestion. Non-motorized travel improvements can reduce local congestion problems by reducing short trips generated when poor walking and cycling conditions cause people to drive just a few short blocks. These short trips can create significant congestion since they often involve merging and turning maneuvers, which will cause traffic friction. All right. The whole report is very comprehensive and lists a number of benefits I don't have time to talk about today, such as consumer savings, motorist crash reduction, emission reductions, better health, and whatever else. If you're ever looking for some light reading material before bed, give it a read. All right, so let's keep it going. I'd like to take some time to highlight some of our policy specifics from our Complete Streets policy. The whole report is included in the handout if you're looking to read that. It's a little lighter than the full VTPI one. In our policy proposal, we list 4 different major street types that we hope to classify roughly 90% of the streets in Nashua, and the idea being the following 10% can be covered in a follow-up later. I'll take some time to go over 2 of the 4 street types. For all street types additional proposals, please see the full report. Let's go. So, for the first one, we propose a Main Street street type for higher density mixed-use areas, not just for Main Street, although it is just Main Street for now, with 1 automobile lane going in each direction, as well as protected cycle lanes on both sides of the street and extra wide sidewalks. Right. Another one, we propose a boulevard, a wide type of road similar to DW Highway or Amherst Street, for higher speed automobile traffic that has 2 car lanes in both directions, protected cycle lanes in both directions, and wide sidewalks. So with these 2 street types, you can sort of get the idea about what we're proposing. With a rough idea of what our Complete Streets policy is, I'd like to take some time to discuss how with better land use, when complemented with the Complete Streets policy, creates a strong urban fabric and flourishing downtown. So let's go. Currently, there's an initiative, Nashua Recode, which is investigating updating the zoning code across Nashua. One of the possibilities that could come from Nashua Recode is a hybrid form-based zoning code regulating building form uses, building form rather than uses, although some uses would still be regulated. The updated zoning code could potentially allow for additional density and small businesses to flourish in more areas in Nashua, as it could become legal to open small businesses, whether they be tailoring businesses, coffee shops, barber shops, or whatever, in more parts of Nashua. With more small businesses in the vicinity of Nashuans and safe ways to get them that are not just driving, a zoning revamp and a Complete Streets policy together would allow folks to live a car-light lifestyle if desired, and potentially lower parking demand rather than increase it, which is what the city is expecting in the next 5 years. Okay. So that's really all I've got for policy specifics for now. I appreciate you guys taking time to listen to me. I hope you guys are interested in Complete Streets policy, and I'm going to pass off to JV to talk about community impact.
Thank you. I'm Jonathan Vale, resident of Nashua, obviously. Let's see if I get to the right spot here. So I got into this mostly through biking and trying to get alternatives to transportation. I've been involved with the Gate City Bike Co-op for many years. I've been organizing some of the VO bike rides, if you remember those, where we biked around town. I also was part of Critical Mass, where we'd have a monthly bike ride around town, just to get people out, not like the cycle sport, but getting people out on the streets, getting people in the community. That's something that's been important to me. And I also wanted to kind of stress how putting these ideas together, putting community together, getting the grassroots support, which is what I really got into this for. I started getting interested in trying to promote policy, showing up at some of the meetings Trish had, and she's the one that's like, oh, you should talk to this, and then go talk to Darian. And so that kind of community started building. I'm also heavily involved with Make It Labs, so we've kind of been involved with some of those groups as well. I mean, I think we all want a town to be proud of, foster community involvement, at the same time getting people involved in the process. What I see when I come to the meetings, most of the people are there with something they don't like, something that's very upset about. That's the only thing that really gets them off the couch. So trying to, be a proactive force for good, hopefully provide the input, provide the impetus, provide the education to kind of help the city move in the direction that I think most of the people I've spoken with in the city have similar ideas and goals. And again, the big one for me is the transportation freedom and equity, having a choice of something other than just driving everywhere. As part of that, one of the things about biking, people say it's too dangerous. I compiled a map, it's an interactive map. You can see all of the car versus people accidents in Nashua over the last few years, whether it's a bicycle, whether it's a pedestrian. These are all compiled from police reports, so you can kind of see where we need to work on things. This is where people are trying to walk and they're getting run over by cars. Car accidents nationwide are at an all-time high, 30-year high for pedestrian deaths. So we're moving in the wrong direction as a country. We want to kind of change that, and I think change has to start locally. The other issue is trying to get a nice downtown. I mean, I really like going downtown, doing things. I'm really saddened by where it was when I moved here 25 years ago. We've lost a lot of pretty much most of the retail downtown. We still have some nice restaurants, there's a few good cafes. One thing I noticed by comparison, Manchester went to different street design and they've had a big rebound. 20 years ago, they were a ghost town on Elm Street. Now they've improved. I don't know if that's coincidental, but trying to look at some of those changes I think is beneficial. One of the things people talk about when they drive downtown is there's no place to park. I think, as the map shows, this is from the GIS, there's a lot of parking. These are all the parking lots. So it's more of a perception thing. And again, it'd be nice to make a destination rather than kind of a failed strip mall that people don't want to go to. Okay, so I think these are our next steps. We're coming up. I think we're pretty much at the end. So we're looking to complete streets policy as a way of trying to transform things iteratively. The Nashua Recode is a first step in that direction as well. That was a very good way for citizens. I don't know how many people showed up, but some of us went down and looked at what they had, what the architects were providing, and provided input. The Strong Towns book makes a very good economic argument for a lot of these policies to try to change things in a way that's sustainable and viable. It's not just, the hippies want to ride bikes or something. And again, we're all in this community. We want to make it better. And I think that's all I had.
I want to go back to one of your slides, Jonathan. Jonathan. Think about the Merrimack Mall.
You need
Got to
to
use the microphone.
Thank you.
You're absolutely right. Think about the Merrimack Mall, right? As Jonathan pointed out, it's a simulacrum of a walkable downtown. It's a destination. People like walking around there, right? Think about Disneyland, right? It's a simulacrum of a small town. And people love walking around there and doing business there. And what Darian pointed out earlier is that in towns that have re-architected their downtown to make them walkable and bikeable, you see tremendous increases in retail activity and in land values. So that's kind of our vision for Nashua. And we stand open for questions, if there are any.
Thank you very much. Does anyone on the board have questions? I'm going to start with Alderman Clay.
Thank you. It's not, I guess it is kind of a question. You said you did go to the recode sessions and so on. Is there anything specific that you saw that stood out that you felt could help? I know that one of the things that when I went to some of the sessions, that I always look at things as with an aldermanic eye and the people that live within that area, and I'm always very concerned. I know that, David, I've spoken to you relative to not wanting to completely close down Main Street because the north end has to get to the hospitals, and that becomes but the narrowing and so on. But I know we were looking at zoning and so on. Is there anything that you'd like to add to that?
Well, so let me just talk about the Main Street, because it is probably the elephant in the room in a sense. That's really what, the most expensive thing to change and will have the greatest impact. So for the last 10 years, I've been teaching this class, and one of the things I take my students to at a certain point is a discussion of risk. And I ask the students, are you a safe driver, right? Who's a safe driver here? Raise your hand. Anyone? No safe drivers? Thank you. All right, Patricia, you're a safe driver. Do you wear a seatbelt?
Yes.
Why?
Not that it's a law here.
Right, it's not the law in New Hampshire.
No, it's not the law in New Hampshire, but I
Right.
know it's a smart thing to do. I've known too many people who've had accidents.
Right,
and
it's a reality that if you are in an accident and you're wearing a seatbelt, you are less likely to die, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have a risk budget. We all do. We have a comfort level with risk, okay? So because you are safer, you drive more recklessly.
Oh.
You do. We all do, and I'll prove it to you. Imagine if when you got in your car, instead of there being a seatbelt, there was a 6-inch iron spike on your steering wheel. How would your driving change?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't even drive, right? A lot of people wouldn't even get in the car. So the point is, you have a perception of how risky the activity is, and you adjust your behavior accordingly. And this is why road design is so important. Because if you drive down Daniel Webster Highway, you see this long, straight, uncomplicated highway, and you just feel the natural safe speed for you is probably, I don't know, somewhere between 55 and 75, okay, if we're being honest. Whereas, if you go down a cobblestone street where there are trees and you worry, oh, I wonder if some child might dart out, or I wonder, I don't know what's going on, you drive much more carefully. And so that's why we want to modify the design of Main Street so that it naturally communicates to drivers, this is a place that you share with pedestrians and bicyclists, and so you need to go slower. And a speed limit sign doesn't do it, right? It's the design of the street itself that does it. And it's far, far more effective than a sign, as anyone who's ever driven on Daniel Webster Highway could attest. All right? Anyone who's ever seen anyone driving the speed limit on Daniel Webster Highway? You see, okay. All right, there's one. There's one. Okay. Case closed.
I think we have another question. Alderman Sullivan, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Just real quick, in your presentation, you reference Howard County, Maryland. Where is that? What towns encompass that? I was just curious.
There are a couple towns, but it is, hold on, I actually don't know exactly specifically which towns encompass it, but it does happen to be a very financially solvent and sort of rich area. So it tends to, the land use has benefited the area quite a lot. So
Okay.
I can't speak at length at specifically what encompasses it, though.
Okay, all right. I'll just research that. Thank you. That's it.
Anyone else? Seeing no one, thank you very much for your presentation this evening. We enjoyed that. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks so much for having us. And I think you all got a copy of our presentation.
We did.
We left a bunch of links at the back. You can type them in, you can scan them, and that'll take you to the Strong Towns website, our website, our Complete Streets policy, and a number of other useful and interesting light reading for right before bed.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Alderman O'Brien.
I would like to make the motion that we adjourn.
Motion is to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey.
We are adjourned at 7:25 PM. Our regular meeting will start in 5 minutes.